This is going to be one of the biggest years of my life, but I'm here for it. I've prepared the best that I possibly can to put myself in the best position this year. Trust me when I say this. The time is now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. I hope you guys are well. I'm absolutely great. Thank you for asking. We're back in with another sit-down video, as you guys can tell, with the time is now. You guys have been enjoying and finding some value in these kind of sit-down, elongated topics, so I thought, let's keep the trend going. We want to have a little bit of a balance of everything on this channel so we can cater to a lot of people. Like, some people like the sit-down long form, some people like something a little bit shorter, vloggy, some people just like the workout, so we're trying to cater to everyone. This is more of an education point. We're going to talk about recovery today and everything that you can potentially do to improve your recovery for bodybuilding. Now, I'm probably not going to hit every single point that you possibly can think of. So if anyone can think of anything extra, comment down below. I'll pin the best ones or make sure the best ones are at the top so that people can get some benefit from them. But these are the things that I personally consider when I'm thinking about recovery, when I'm going into recovery. So first things first, it starts with your training. Recovery starts with your training, because what do you need to recover from? Training. So if you belt yourself into the ground with too much training, you're gonna not recover very well. So my first piece of advice around training is gonna be, don't do too much volume and make sure you're managing your intensity. The higher up that scale of intensity that you go, the less total volume you're gonna have to do. If you are a 10 out of 10 trainer in terms of intensity, 10 out of 10 being ultimate muscular failure safely, I would recommend you going pretty low on that volume scale, maybe 4 to 8 sets per muscle group in a session, for example. If you are a little bit less down that line, and you need to be honest with yourself, watch your sets back and see if you could have got 5 more or 3 more or 2 more or no more. And if you can truly say you had 2 or 3 more left, I would do a little bit more volume. We call this reps in reserve or rate of perceived exertion, around a 7 or 8 or something. So the higher up the scale of the intensity, the less volume. The lower you come on that scale, the higher that volume can be. And you've got to learn that relationship yourself. You do. There's no way that I can sit here and say, you need to do this amount of volume and this amount of recovery and it's going to equal this result. I can't do that. You have to explore yourself a little bit. So the first point of recovery, don't do too much. Seems pretty obvious. For some people, it's not. Another thing that you can do is warm up properly. A lot of people don't warm up properly. This means getting your joints moving. This means going through the movements and getting your movement patterns ready. A lot of people just get under that bar and start lifting. So there was a study in 2007 in Australia that actually researched a little bit about warm-ups and warming up, and it found that actually having an adequate warm-up for your session decreased your muscle soreness later on down the line. I think it's by about 30%. Don't quote me off the top of my head, but I think it's about 30%. So you've got an increased chance to decrease that muscle soreness there. You can take that through just an easy warm-up, which a lot of people fail. They just overlook. They don't warm up properly. So that's something that you can take immediately into your sessions. Now, if we move away from training, is fairly simple. Don't do too much. Make sure you're warming up. Now, outside of training, you can do things like mobility work. Now, mobility works twofold. One, in the way that it's gonna get you more mobile. You're gonna be a little bit more supple. Your joints are gonna move a little bit easier. So you're gonna have a decreased risk in injury, but also you will have an increased blood flow while you're doing that mobility. You know, when you're trying to stretch, when you're trying to do whatever your mobility routine is, you are going to get your heart rate a little bit higher. Your blood is then going to flood into the places that you're trying to get mobile. Maybe you're doing some legs or posterior chain stuff. You are then gonna, that blood is then gonna take away any lactic acid or inflammation or buildup of toxins that potentially might be in that area, which is why a lot of people say warm down, because actually a warm down will take that blood away and it will help regulate that inflammation and that delay onset of muscle soreness quite effectively, actually. And I find that I actually do my mobility work in the evening, and I find if I have a hard session in the morning, I do that mobility and I do feel better. You know, whether that's placebo or not, I do feel better. So mobility works twofold there. So definitely something that you can capitalize on. Now onto the simple stuff. The simple stuff that's not so simple because people miss it. Hydrate. You have to be hydrated. You know, how many people wake up and don't really want to drink too much water, or maybe they have a sip of water and then go train. You know, with not much fluid in your body, pumps are going to be worse, blood flow is going to be worse. That means that lactic acid pulling away is going to be slower. That means that the pumps are going to be worse. We know that a pump is going to help your muscle breakdown, your progress, but it's also going to help that recovery as well. So I'd highly recommend just getting yourself a minimum amount of fluid in per day. Generally 4 liters or so would be pretty good. I actually drink about 6 to 8 liters just because I do actively try and drink a lot more water. And we know that just being hydrated in general is essential for your cell, cell hydration, whole body hydration. If you have a decreased, if you are dehydrated, you are going to have an impact on your performance, your recovery, and every bodily system, really. So it's imperative that you are, in fact, hydrated. It may seem simple, but it's something that people often overlook. Diet and nutrition. Of course, have enough protein. Make sure you're fueling your workouts pre, but also refueling post. So maybe we've talked about a little bit about the carbohydrate window, pre, intra, and post. Make sure you're utilizing that. Make sure you're having your regular protein feedings over the day and spiking muscle protein synthesis to encourage that muscle repair over the week and over the days. Show your micros as much love as the macros. A lot of people, what macros you want, bro? What's your micros? That's what I want to know. How much vegetables are you eating? Are you hitting your sodium, your potassium, your magnesium, your metals? Are you covering those bases? Vitamin D, E, A, C. Are you covering those bases that on some level help your regular body function? If you are mineral deficient, you will be recovering at a subpar, or your body will be functioning subpar. So make sure those things are covered, and I think that's something that people often overlook, and they think. I think more food is often associated with better recovery. So like, the whole thing, let's do leg day. All right, let's go for a 5 guys after. I would argue that you could have better nutrition than that 5 guys that would recover you better. Sure, is some meat, some bread, some potato drenched in fat and some salt and probably some sugar gonna taste good and recover you? Yeah, it probably is. Can you do that better? Yeah, you probably can. I'm not saying one is right or wrong. I'm just saying you can do one better. So make sure your macros are hit. Make sure your protein is sufficient. Make sure your pre and post workout carbohydrates are sufficient enough for energy replenishment. Remember, carbohydrates are the most readily available source of energy. So for us to neglect those, for us to go on a low carb diet is just not productive for recovery at any point. More into nutrition, something that people probably don't think about is your digestive health. If you have poor digestion, you are going to assimilate nutrients slower or poorer. If you have a leaky gut, some of those nutrients are going to leak out of that gut and cause you some impermeability. They're going to cause some gastric enteritis. Maybe they're going to cause you they're going to give you their shits basically, right? So make sure your digestive health is there. The things that we can do to improve your digestive health, first and foremost, food choice, of course it is. If you ever had a Domino's and felt bloated, there's probably a reason behind that. You could pick cleaner food. So digestion starts at the mouth. Digestion starts with the eyes, really, because when you do start to see when you see food, you start to release enzymes that are going to, amylase, protease, lipase, that are going to break down food in your mouth initially. So, when we talk about digestive health, we don't just mean the types of food you're putting in your body. We can also mean how often you chew. You've got to think that the more you chew, the more surface area that is available of that food once it enters your stomach, the more of that is going to get assimilated. Much more of that is going to get assimilated. So I recommend, this is going to sound stupid now, but I recommend chewing over 20 times per mouthful. You will feel right around that 20 chew mark, the whatever is in your mouth, the food, the nutrients, the whatever it is, you will feel it almost go into a liquid state. You got a piece of chicken, you chew that shit 20 times, I promise you it's going to be super liquid in your mouth. It's going to be starting to break down. You're going to assimilate more of that if you chew more. So please, 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 it seems obvious, but chew more. I am a shoveler. I am known as a shoveler. I shovel and don't chew as much as I should. But I know that when I have taken my time and sat back and chewed my food a little bit more with, good food choices, that my digestive issues are near none. So I definitely recommend that. If you have issues with your digestive health, assess those 2 things. If those 2 things are fine, maybe look at some L-glutamine to help repair your gut wall. Maybe look at some kind of gut permeability issue, and you can essentially backtrack where the digestive issue is coming from. Number 1 on here is probably going to be sleep. I think that we do live in a world where people like to say, you know, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or I'm up while you're sleeping, you know, I'm working while you're sleeping. Actually, sleep is just so important, especially in bodybuilding. We know that poor sleep can be associated with higher body fats, less muscle mass, and in fact, when you're in a deficit, it can cause you to lose more muscle mass if you are having a poor sleep. So sleep is paramount for recovery. Actively sleep. Don't just live sleep how it is. When I was younger, I didn't even think about sleep. I just go to bed and that's it. You know, I didn't think about how well that sleep was. I didn't think about how I felt in the morning, other than maybe saying I didn't sleep very well last night. I didn't think, why didn't I sleep well? Did I have caffeine too late? Did I have my meal too close to my bed? Is my room too hot? There's all these different things that, to me now, are second nature. I don't even think about them. My sleeping schedule is perfect because it's been a routine for so long. But people have to actively think about sleeping. You know, are you taking the correct supplementation to sleep? Maybe some magnesium is going to help. Maybe a sleep stack or a PM priming is going to help. You know, or if you sleep well already, that's fine. No worries, you don't need those supplements. But I definitely think that people should shift into an active sleep. Like, you want to sleep good. You know, I get off on sleeping good because I know that day that I slept really good, I've kept more muscle and I've burnt more body fat and I'm going to be more recovered. And you guys know, after you've had a belter of a sleep and you wake up feeling $1 million, if you can do that every single day, you can guarantee your recovery is going to improve. You know, that's when we have a lot of lymphatic draining, you know, a lot of lactic acid draining, and a lot of these bodily processes that drain that inflammation and those toxins from your body happen when you're asleep. So for you to overlook that, or, you know, be so hardcore that you don't need that sleep, perhaps it's time to take a step back and just make sure that you're on point there. Supplements, we did do a supplement video last sit down video, so I don't want to talk too much about it, but you know what, there are some supplements that can improve your recovery. We know that creatine is going to help. You know, we do know that it's going to help because the more creatine you have, the more creatine can bind to a phosphate molecule. The more creatine phosphate you've got, the more energy, the quicker the replenishment of creatine is going to be. You can look at whey proteins for replacing protein in your diet. You know, there are things that can shift you from a sympathetic state to a parasympathetic state. Sympathetic state, fight or flight. Heart rate's high, digestive enzymes are low, we're ready for war, we want to go train. Parasympathetic, digestive system is upregulated, heart rate is low, we're calm, we're ready to assimilate and digest food. You know, things like ashwagandha, you know, or Support Max Neuro. They're two supplements that you could potentially use. Actually, ashwagandha is in Support Max Neuro, so you could use one or the other. This could help regulate your nervous system into a parasympathetic state, a state that is more readily available to absorb food, to sleep, to relax. And you have to make that switch. Making that switch is a very key ingredient of recovery. You know, being able to just switch down, calm down. And you might find that quite hard sometimes. I definitely do sometimes when I'm very busy, or maybe I'm hyped up on stimulants, maybe I've had a really good session and I'm a little bit all over the place. Well, actually, the more all over the place you are, the quicker you're doing these steps, the quicker you're cleaning stuff and doing all this, you are going to impact your recovery. Is that a problem? No, not necessarily, if your food's all right and everything else is fine. I'm talking about in considerations for a prep where I'm, you know, sometimes I'm buzzing all over the place. That is going to inhibit me a little bit later down the line. So it's something to consider, but also unavoidable sometimes. But I don't want to touch too long on supplements. Just, you can refer back to the other video if you wanted to go a little bit deeper onto those. Now, outside of the gym and training and sleep and all that kind of stuff, we can get some therapy done. You can get massage. Maybe you get chiropractor, osteopath, things that, or things that have someone else look at your body as a whole. And can help increase your recovery. Of course, massage can improve your blood flow and take away that lactic acid like we've talked about a few times this video. But tightness anywhere is going to impact somewhere else. You know, if you sit at a desk all day and you're like this and you're hunched over and your hip flexors are tight and your upper back is rounded and tight and you've got to go deadlift, I promise you that if you weren't tight and you'd done some massage, maybe you'd done some mobility, that deadlift is going to go better. And in fact, if you were to go deadlift and then go back into that same hunched over position, your recovery is going to be worse. So if you get these things like massage, mobility, and all the things we've talked about, you might potentially increase that recovery and improve that recovery for later down the line. Anything that kind of helps you to relax, maybe things that on a mild scientific level that can increase your heat shock proteins, like saunas, in fact, red light saunas, infrared saunas. I was going to say like hot tubs and steam rooms, but they don't really do the same thing. They can actually increase your protein shock, your heat shock proteins, which can actually help your recovery, and it can help mitigate some muscle protein breakdown. It can help muscle growth as well. There's a little bit of research to say that cold tubs work in terms of recovery and reducing your delay onset of muscle soreness, but there is some hypertrophic blunting effects of that cold stuff. So whether, I'm saying this, but Mr. Olympia C-Bum does cold tubs every day. So I don't think that the hypertrophic blunting effect is wildly high. I think it's probably very minuscule, very, very small. But it's something to consider. Someone who does cold tubs, you know, if you feel great, it's great. But we know that cold and hot contrast can really work well for recovery. I think I would be more inclined to do cold if I was a triathlete or someone who wasn't focused on muscle building, just because of that mild hypertrophic blunting effect. If I was doing a sport where the goal wasn't hypertrophy, you could have more inclination to do those cold tubs. But for me personally, I just kind of stick into the hot tub over there and anything that's going to bring me down to a zen state. And that's pretty much it. Like, those are my tips. Those are the things that I focus on. There's definitely some more out there that you guys can focus on, and probably things that you guys can bring to the table as well. But those are the things that I take into account when I'm focused on recovery. Because as a bodybuilder and someone who's trying to be one of the best bodybuilders, I think that you need to concentrate on all of those things at once to increase those marginal gains. You know, is doing one of those things going to massively increase your recovery? Absolutely not. It's not going to. But if you do a lot of these different things, you know, plus everything else that goes into life with training and managing your volume and nutrition and all the things that we talk about on this channel, those are all marginal gains. Maybe they're 0.01%, but if you got 100 0.01%, that's a good percent there, right? And that's a big difference. So for me, I play a game of marginal gains. Think about your recovery. The whole idea of this video is to make you think about recovery. Don't just think that recovery is when you're not training. You know, some people go in, train, and do what, like, they don't think recovery isn't in the conversation. Bring it to the conversation. Are you doing things that can potentially help? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys took some value from this video. Drop a like, drop a comment. Remember, every video this year, probably this year, I'm gonna do a giveaway. All you need to do is comment on the video, whatever you want. You can hashtag 1MR, you can just let me know what you thought about the video. You can even just put one word if you want to. I will enter everyone into a giveaway, and I do a random giveaway every single video. So drop a like, drop a comment. We'll see you very soon, guys. Peace and love. Bye-bye.